What's up, everyone? How's it going today? My name's Carpo, and I'm sure most of you who are watching this already know that. It's not like I get a lot of new people popping in on my videos randomly, but anyway, I've got mostly this is today's subject, I guess. I was originally going to talk about kratom, and I have this one video subject I've been wanting to do for a while, which is when I was thinking about doing the kratom video and I sat down, it reminded me of, I started thinking, why do we desire substances in our life? What is it about filling certain gaps? Such as, why do we need an energy boost? Why can't we have enough natural energy? And as well, why do we need things to ease our anxiety? Why can't we just do this naturally? And all at once, I realized why, because I already knew, but it brought me instantly back to the original video I wanted to do today, which was about fear and human nature. And often the reason why we consume particular substances is to mask the fear that we have, that we've carried with us through generations. And not just generations, for, millions of years, at least since, let's see, it's difficult to gauge human history. But let's say we go back 100,000 years. This is when they believe that humans began to have at least the rational ability to start thinking somewhat current to current man. And of course, we didn't have the same resources. And once we discovered fire, then that changed everything. But during the whole history of man, everything had been about fear. It had been about protecting ourselves. And some genetics, some lines of humans probably are more fear prone by nature. Some people, by their upbringing, are more fear-prone. But all of us have a certain degree of pain that comes with being a human in the modern world. And sometimes we look around and look for others that are doing well and say, how has their approach worked? How do they cope? And when you really get down and talk to the people, no matter how calm and collected and guru-like they may seem, if they're truly honest, they'll tell you that they're human, and they fuck up all the time. And pardon my language, but I mean that strongly, like, truly fuck up. Everybody has made mistakes in their life. Bad mistakes. And some of us make less. But here's the thing. A person who makes no mistakes is a person who takes no chances. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning from them. The people who've grown the most in their lives are the people who have either made the most mistakes, or suffered the most casualties, or dealt with the most adversity. And that's just a fact, as far as I see it. It seems like the people who are spoon-fed, the silver spoon people, they just don't seem to be on the same level as those who have suffered. You can look into the eyes of a person who's been handed everything, and they just seem in another world. And I imagine you would have to be in order to be that kind of person. Now, it doesn't mean that a rich person is like that. Sometimes people are given things in their life and then they build on it and they learn and they get to the point where they say, no, wait, I want to do this for myself. But humans are not designed to be kings and princes and to be, and I mean that in the not in the sense of being a leader, because leaders are something that humans have always had and we always will have. There are people that we look up to, just like we look up to a carpenter as someone who can build our house better than we can. Or, the herbalist is someone who's going to give us the right medicine so we don't make a dumb mistake. We also have to, we trust in all the different parts of our culture, and we also trust in authority. And today we've lost the trust in authority because the authority doesn't respect the people anymore. And because the authority doesn't have to answer as individual person. If you have a problem with the way things are going, you can no longer go to the tribal chief or medicine man and say, what do we do about this? And look them in the eye and show your concern. Nor can you physically just overthrow them or literally throw them off a cliff if they don't present a good leadership skills. And so there's no recourse for action when our leaders wrong us. So people get frustrated. This frustration's building up in our society, in our communities, and it's coming out against each other. And what it is it's our primal fear. We don't have to worry about the lion. We don't have to worry about falling off the cliff anymore. We don't even have to worry about whether the crops are going to come in this year because somebody else is doing it for us. Now, to step back a minute, this isn't a bad thing. This is what we wanted. As a society, as a species, we wanted to compartmentalize our society into sections, and specialists would come and fill these particular job titles. We have people who blow glass, and make beautiful art. We have people that blow glass and make functional pieces or beakers. We have all different types of artists and creators and builders that are all working together, yet they all have their own individual trades. Now, I've been a carpenter all my life, more or less, and building how. Hold on a sec. I'll have to be back. I didn't call. She went to the store. She'll be right back. Okay. I seldom make it very long when I finally do walk out to make a video. It's just how it goes. And that's part of life. Back in the day, we had our kids, it was like the way that our parents treated our kids, if they interrupted us or we were doing something or they didn't obey, it was always like kids were treated like, I don't know. I'm looking back on the perspective of history, the way that teachers used to hit children, that it was acceptable for kids to be hit by their teachers in this century, or in the last century. Even in this century, there's still teachers doing it here in the U.S. But anyway, these issues of contention that we have in society about the idealism, the way we wish things were, it causes us anguish. And now that we can see more of the world through the internet lens, I can't boost that up enough. For if you're under 30, growing up in this generation, it's all you know. But if you're 40 or 50, you know that you've seen the change and you've seen what the internet's done to the world. It's made a bunch of arrogant pricks out of us. We think we can Google everything and know everything, and in a lot of cases that's true, but it's almost like children playing with our first skill saws or hand tools or chisels. We don't really know how to use them yet properly, so we could easily hurt ourselves. And I generally see it all as a positive thing, this whole change of society, because I see us as having birth pangs, but we're growing up and realizing that one day we will be able to step back and laugh at ourselves for being so stupid and silly. But at the same time, we're more likely going to laugh at ourselves for realizing that it's just the way we are, that there are going to be warmongers, that there are going to be arrogant people, there are going to be, depressed people, there are going to be people who don't feel like they have enough, and people who feel like they have too much, but still keep taking. And all different types of people make this walk of life. And just like you talk about the principles of balance and the way the pendulum swings to the negative, back to the positive, to the negative, to the positive, and the bigger the swing, the bigger the rebound, okay? And the same thing happens with many different aspects of life, but especially everything. The people that we meet, the way that we treat others, everything comes back to us, and that's what karma is. People just don't seem... it took me a long time to understand that, what karma really is, because the term karma has been tainted. I guess it's tainted by nature, because the karma is your lot, or the balance of your life. However, it's been moved into multiple lives, and people talk about reincarnation. But let's just leave that out of it for a minute and talk about just this life. People say, look at the people who are good, great, wonderful children that die at the age 5 from some horrible, painful cancer. And then there's an 80-year-old man who spent his whole life robbing and cheating, and he's a millionaire, and he's happy, and he's a glutton, and he dies happily and comfortably. Where's the justice in that, and how can you believe in a karma? Well, even karma itself doesn't mean it's 100% going to be for each person. The balance of karma is often weighed. When one person takes, another person suffers. So this is how I see we have to approach each stage in our life as being cautious. If you're gaining more than you should, what is it? What are you gaining that from? Let's just say, for example, that your insurance company makes a mistake, and instead of sending you 10 grand, they send you 15 grand. or even just 12 grand? And do you say anything about it? You know, you could break it down to a smaller level. If you go into the cashier, you're in the store, and they give you the wrong change, do you tell them honestly? Now, in the past, I've been given the wrong change when I was younger, and I took it, didn't say a word. But since then, my values won't allow me to do that. I always say, oh, you gave me too much, and it happens a lot, you know, more than you would think. I'm also aware when I get shortchanged, so I guess it balances out in its own right, but I find myself being honest in that regards, but then you start wondering, what about bigger companies, the ones I'm not affected? I'm not looking directly at these people. You know, what if I can fool my insurance, or what if I can get one over on these guys? And then you start to look at the bigger picture and how it really does harm the bigger picture in society. But then we see these companies robbing us and taking too much, and it's hard. So people can't keep their value systems up because they can't survive. They feel like others are taking advantage of them constantly. There's people that are so suspicious that, you know, if anybody who, you know, even as a business owner myself, I've talked to so many people who are suspicious of everyone they've ever bought anything from. More when I was a carpenter, and I'd have customers that would, you know, give me the weird eye, and they'd follow you around and kind of wonder what you're like. They get to know you, and then they're fine. But it's a matter of getting to know people. And I think when we see each other through our own eyes, when we see ourselves through others' eyes, then we can start to see that we are that other person. I mean, it's an amazing feeling to believe that you really are part of the whole organism, but when you bring that out, people are quick to dismiss you as being some fruitcake spiritualist, you know. I guess to each his own. I definitely don't have any permanent opinions on it, but I guess to stick to the point and the premise of the video, we can't blame ourselves for being in pain. You know, others are telling us we need to get better. You know, we need to cure our addictions. We need to stop our bad habits. We need to, you know, be clean and get a good job and go to college and get a career and retire and get a 401k. That's just a bunch of bullshit. It really is. These are all systems that are created by the general consensus of what man may want, but so much of it has just become the norm because it's just the way things have been done. At a point, you break tradition when you realize it's not upholding the values anymore. And I feel like people are growing out of that. We see much more casual wear in the business place, you know, in the workplace, that kind of thing, you know, casual Fridays, and now, you know, CEOs are wearing vests and t-shirts and stuff. I mean, these are things that should have always been that way, but there's a lot of psychology behind it too. It scares people. There's a whole psychological aspect behind when people see a guy like a rich person wearing normal street clothes. You would think that they would be, you know, feel like they're on that level, but they feel actually more offended because they see that it's just another person, that it's not a suit, it's an actual person, like they are, somebody their age that's dressed like them. Why is he a billionaire and I'm broke, you know? And so that does scare some people, but ultimately, you know, all the things that we do, the jealousy, the greed, envy, hatred, all these things stem from our root primal mind, that instinctual reptilian mind, if you will. And that's where it comes from. And it's something that helps us survive. You know, it allows us to pull our hand back when something's hot, or to run from danger. You know, if we didn't have adrenaline and we couldn't pump, you know, couldn't get our fight or flight going, then we'd get ourselves in a lot of trouble when we really need to help someone. So having these things, these are very crucial parts of who we are. But we also have to learn to harness that and conquer it. You realize how much energy it takes to get angry, because when you get angry and frustrated, your adrenaline's pumping, cortisol's pumping, you're not thinking clearly. Over and over, this wears on the immune system and the body because you're robbing energy from other sources. We all know that remaining cool, calm, and collected is the best way. I mean, there's really no way around it. And people will say sometimes you have to get violent. Yes, that's true. You know, sometimes you have to strike back. Yes, that's true. But you have to do it with a calm and collected behavior and mannerism. And that's not always easy to do, because when we get pissed off, our emotion dictates our anger, and it goes crazy from there. Some people harness it better than others, but we have to remember that we are not separate genetic pools anymore. We are a homogenized society with many different needs, many different predispositions to disease or illness, or to fortune, or to famine, or whatever it may be, depending on location, gender, race. There's so many different factors that determine how our bodies will react to our environment. And I think that since we can't control all of them, at least the few that we can control would be things like fear, and learning to harness our fear, and to realize that fear, that when we fear the unknown in this world, it's just like fearing going into the dark woods in the old times. It's the same thing. And so we stop fearing what we can't see, because it's not affecting us as much as we think it is. We have to give ourselves full power and recognition. And this is why people keep saying, that you are empowered, you have the power. It's because it's true. But it doesn't have to be hokey and spiritual. It has to mean that the only person that can change your fortune is yourself. You don't see people coming in and getting swept off their feet because they're moaning about their life. Many different, verses and allegories come to mind, but that one line, God helps those who help themselves, it falls in line with everything. You can replace the word God with anything, with the universe, and it's the same difference. The universe helps those who help themselves, because you're making it a priority to do something. So I'm going to go now, and I wish you all the best of days. I hear myself being summoned by my 3-year-old, so I better roll.